this first year to define where you're going and to think, okay, this is what I want to shore up your foundation, so to speak, then you will have problems 3, 4, 5 years down the road. And that's what happens to a lot of homeschool veterans. They don't really define what brought them to homeschooling. They jump right in, they won't talk about curriculum, and that's it. Well, we have to talk about these other things so that you have sure foundation for your journey, and so you won't be wavering when maybe a new approach comes along, or maybe something that's not working for your child, or maybe you had a bad year. You'll just realize it was a bad year. That doesn't mean that the whole journey has to be like that. So homeschooling, let me talk a little bit about the history of homeschooling too, because I just want to touch on it here. It's really not new, but it did see a resurgence in the 1970s, and then really a refinement is the way I like to describe it in the 80s. And if you read anything by John Holt, that's H-O-L-T, John Holt, and Dr. Raymond Moore, that's M-O-O-R-E, then you'll really get a glimpse into the hearts of these pioneers. And the reason you want to do this is because you are really starting on a journey. You're accepting a new method of education into your home, so you need to be armed with why you chose this method, why it's the best one, what is the history of it. It gives you something like when there's opposition against your homeschooling, when you have the naysayers, well then you can say, well, I looked into it. You know, have you looked into the history of public schooling? See, and that's where we want to be. We want to be well-educated educators. That's really what we want to be. Okay, now how long does this deschooling take? Well, I can't answer, specifically this long, these many days, this month, or whatever. What I can do is to share with you some examples of what I think about. And I think about an example of whether we have a newborn, we add another family member, sibling, could be adoption, it could be a huge family move, you know, it could be, you know, like say we're moving across country or something that really kind of comes into our family and really makes an upheaval into our family. And only you are the one to determine, okay, how long that your family has kind of recuperated, if you will, from that change. Well, homeschooling is the same way. You know, every family is different. We have sometimes moms with a lot of small ones need, you know, we obviously need way more rest. And then, of course, you've got moms with teenagers, and sometimes you're like, oh, they don't act any different teenagers than they did when they were young. It takes just as much energy. So, especially though, I can tell you this, especially like for middle school and high school, it's really important to get them kind of back on a routine as quick as you can. And a routine, again, does not mean heavy academics. A routine means, okay, I expect you to get up, I expect you to have some exercise, eat breakfast, I expect you to do some reading, I expect you to do these chores. And what really deschooling does is it gives you a time to step back away and say, okay, this is where we're going, this is what we want to do, I've had time to look over this curriculum, and I think this is the direction we want to go. So that's really what I want you to be doing right now at this particular time. Something else here that I want to share with you is that you want to really be doing all the reading you can about homeschooling at this time. I know that there's so many questions that you have, and I want to answer them and share with you things that I know. But again, in this 1 year, there will be no way that I can share with you, not any veteran can share with you everything they know, but we can help you and guide you. And you can really make improvement if you will just read everything that you can get your hands on about homeschooling. What it really will do is to help you make good choices about curriculum if you do that. So here's the next thing that I want to talk about then now about the workshop. I want you to see that organization really is an achievable goal, because I'm going to be talking, you know, in these next 2 sessions, and everything that I say, I always tell you, it always comes down to this nutshell, and this is what I want you to take away from this month's workshop. That number 1, organization is an achievable goal, and that number 2, it has to be viewed as a desirable quality and that it's needed in homeschool. And number 3, that what we think organized means affects our goals, and we can't really start schooling with so much weight on our minds. So that you don't have to rewind, let me say that again, okay? Number 1, that organization is an achievable goal. And number two, it has to be viewed as a desirable quality, something that we want to bring into our homeschooling journey. And number three, what we think organized means does affect our goals. And we really can't start homeschooling with so much weighing on our minds. And when I mean so much, it can be anything. It can be the clutter in our kitchen. It can be the clutter in our bedroom. It can be the clutter in our schoolroom. I'm not necessarily talking about the schoolroom. I'm not talking about curriculum. But we all know what affects us. We have all these external factors. When we sit down to school our kids, all we can think in the back of our mind is, have I done those taxes? Have I cleaned this? Have I done that? That is what I'm talking about. It affects us. We have to address it. We don't want to ignore it, because then we can't be a good homeschool teacher, because there's just so many things on our mind that we can't be what we need to our children. So that's what I want you really to take away from this workshop. Okay, so those of you then that are members, you have the manual with us, because I know some of you perhaps have just paid for the one workshop, but those that are members do have the manual. So I encourage you to go ahead and get your outline out, and we're going to start with it there. And we always start each of our workshops with a quote of the month. And really we have 4 topics here that we're going to talk about: how organization equals success. And you don't have to write these down because it's in your manual.